Hello there, I'm Keo Ronin Beatmaker, and welcome to Lounge Ronin. All things, everything. And before we get into it, make sure to hit that like button and ring that notification bell. And don't forget to subscribe. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to leave a comment with your thoughts below and leave a little bit of some constructive criticism. And on today's topic, we're going to discuss the global civilization of Tamana. Now, as you all know, I am a massive fan of ancient civilizations. So when I heard about this civilization, I was like, huh, let's see what this one is all about. And as you know, as you know, I'm a big believer in the hidden history, the true history. And I advocate for doing your own research and just delving into the mysteries of the world and keeping in mind that, the institutions at hand do not want us knowing the true history of civilization, of humanity, and of the world. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right. This was written October 13th, 2016 by Clyde Winters. Was Tamana a universal civilization of mankind before the Great Flood? Now, I'm sure many of you are aware of Graham Hancock, Randall Carlson, Graham Hancock's, discussions about, the the pre-deluge civilizations that lived in North America, or the discussions of the Denisovans. I can't remember the name of the civilization that lived in North America during the Ice Age, but if you caught my live stream discussing um, uh, Noah and Manu and the Great Flood, you have this narrative of these people and civilizations that existed prior to the Great Flood and that flourished. There are many accounts of these stories, so it's really interesting to see what this researcher has uncovered in regards to the Tamana civilization. Once there was a universal world culture. I mean, was there once a universal world culture? A researcher in Hawaii, Dr. Vamos Toth Bator, argued there was such a culture, and he presented over 1 million place names from around the world to prove his point. Bold strategy, Cotton. See if it plays out. Ancient civilization. At Baratu Kukalu in Hungary, Baratu near Lake Chad in Africa, Kukaru, Bolivia, and Kukala, New Guinea, we find cone houses of similar shapes. In addition, Dr. Vamostok found 6,000-year-old pottery signs from sites such as Tordos in the Carpathian basin of Europe, ancient Egypt, and Banpo in China, all showing amazing correspondence. Toth explains that the appearance of, it's kind of ironic that his last name is Toth. Toth explains that the appearance of identical place names in different parts of the world is evidence of an ancient civilization that formerly existed, that he called Tamana. Here is a photo of the doctor, courtesy of Clyde Winters. Uh, all right, all of these similarities in place names and cultural expressions, separated by thousands of miles, suggest to Toth that at some time in our distant past, mankind shared a universal culture. He believed he had found this universal culture which spanned the entire world untold millennia before our present era. Like I said, bold. Toth called this pre-Diluvian culture Tamana. The name, the name these ancient civilizations used to denote their colonial cities. Hmm. Which is no different than what many um, Spanish um, colonies did, many British colonies did. You look throughout the world and you'll find, cities or towns or countries that have their origins found from the colonies that had occupied them. So there's no, there would be no surprise if there was another, large civilization that was colonizing the world that would do similar acts. I guess you could say it's almost expected in these large kind of civilizations. So, no, I'll leave that up to your own discretion to reflect on. Over a decade ago, Toth observed that certain place names, common to his ancestral home in the Carpathian basin of his beloved Hungary, was also found in countries outside of Europe. After years of research, he discovered that 5,800 places names are found in the Carpathian basin in 149 countries around the world. Over 3,500 of these place names can be seen outside of Eurasia, in Africa, the Americas, and Oceania. Most of these towns and rivers that share Tamana place names are found in areas recently discovered or geographically not even known 100 to 150 years ago. So here we have a map showing Tamana in South America, Africa, Europe, the Middle East, Eurasia, Asia, Philippines, or the Pacific Islands as well, Australia, New Zealand. Hmm. There's it kind of reminds me of shout out to Jimmy Corsetti and his channel Bart Insight, and the video that he did making the case of a worldwide civilization based on all the pyramids that are found throughout the entire world. And it's kind of funny that I recently watched a documentary on a pyramid in Indonesia. And what was really fascinating about the pyramid in Indonesia was that the pyramid in Indonesia had found a they had found a gold coin, and the gold coin, they trace the gold all the way from Turkey, uh, and this pyramid was pre the Ice Age. So you have to ask yourself, how did gold coin from Turkey make its way all the way to Indonesia and a pyramid in Indonesia for that matter. So these are, the many things that we as humans, we kind of have to, ask ourselves, what does that mean? And not only what does that mean, why is it not being discussed in mainstream academia, in these mainstream institutions? Why won't they? It's very, very telling, and things that we should all take into consideration. Okay, let's continue. Topographical names rarely change, even though new peoples may settle in an area. For example, my hometown of Chicago still bears a name originally given the area by its former Native American inhabitants. Tamana, the original settlement. The term Tamana is a place name found in 24 countries around the world. Toth discovered the occurrence in this place name as a river in northern Ontario. Tamana, Tumana, Tamana. This place situated in the secluded swampy area near the Hudson Bay is an superfused survival of the word Tamana. Okay then. Try saying that 5 times fast. All right, we have another world map for all of the colonies of Tamana, and they're everywhere, all over North and South America. But it seems like they were really heavily congregated in Europe and the Middle East and over in Japan, which I wonder if oh wait, hold on. Right underneath the map, they have essentially all of the civilizations, I mean all the colonies for Tamana. And I'll read through as many of them as I can see. And I guess you could say, yeah, 34 colonies. Af Afghanistan, Albania, Australia, Ethiopia, um, India, Indonesia. Oh, and what was I saying about Indonesia? Iwo Jima, Japan, Canada. Oh, can they all start with a K? Well, most of them are. Colombia, I think, yeah, Colombia, the country. Malaysia, Myanmar, Nigeria, Peru, Sierra Leone, Sri Lanka. Yeah, I'm not sure where that place. Ukraine, go figure, right? Um, I think that's Uganda or New Guinea, uh, New Zealand, Venezuela. Those are the ones I could like make out and pronounce, to be honest with you. For my podcast listeners, yeah, if you want to see the map, head over to my YouTube channel, Ronin Art and Music. There will be a link to the article in the description. Make sure to subscribe while you're there. Okay. The term Tamana in the Manding language of Africa, the Magyar language of Hungary, and the Dravidian languages spoken in India share the same meaning: strong place, stronghold, or original settlement. Since the cities established by Tamana people were cities or trading centers situated among hostile tribes, led to these settlements being called Tamana or strongholds. You know, and so what makes me what I'm curious about is, one of them, it said Indonesia, and I was just talking about um, the pyramid in Indonesia, and I think they even have one in China. They had a stronghold in China. Now, I don't know if that area in China is in the exact area of where there are pyramids in China. So my whole speculation here is I'm wondering if this civilization, Tamana, may have been the one of the original pre-Diluvian civilizations that built some of the pyramids and some of the large cities that we ancient cities that we've seen throughout the world. This is just a speculation. I have no evidence to present other than what this article is presenting, and just from my own recollections from other things I've read and documentaries I've watched. But it's just kind of interesting because you look at all of the pyramids throughout the world. I mean, there, like I was saying, I think in a previous live stream, there are pyramids off the coast of Cuba underwater. The pyramids in China, the Bosnian pyramid, the pyramid in Greece. So, and it just kind of makes you, and the pyramid in Indonesia. The, they may not necessarily look like pyramids, but India technically has pyramids. Mexico. Uh, Funny enough, Mexico is not on the map actually, which is really interesting. So then it kind of makes you wonder then, um, was this a civilization that built some pyramids, or did they use an entirely different type of structure? I don't know. I'm just speculating. It's just interesting to me because when you reflect on, well, actually, what about the other map? No, not even. Is there another map? Yeah, no, because they don't. Yeah, neither does this map. Um, yeah, they don't say anything about the Caribbean. So, like, as we know, that there was six different um mass civilization ending events that happened prior to what was told in the Bible, or what was told in um Hindu texts with Manu, who's pretty much the Indian version of Noah. So these pre-Diluvian civilizations, since there was multiple different ones and multiple different types of cataclysms. Perhaps Tamana was one civilization and they expanded this far, but then they collapsed, and then over time another civilization took that place. I don't know. It's just interesting to me because it's just getting really muddy and hard, and perhaps perhaps they did have, I don't know. I don't know, man. It just, my brain's getting tongue tied, so I'm gonna stop. Okay, the deluge. Okay. The Maybe this part might actually help with some of my thoughts. All right. The Tamana people may have come from Saharan Africa because they appear to have expanded around the world after the deluge. Interesting. Which some researchers like Zachariah Sitchin, who in his book When Time Began, believe occurred 13,000 years ago. Sitchin believes that 13,000 years ago, climate changes occurred after the Antarctic ice sheet melted and sent a glacial tidal wave, destroying lowland areas throughout the world. Now, if I remember, Göbekli Tepe is 14,000 years old, um, and it predates the pyramids, if I believe correctly, the construction of the pyramids. So, yeah, there's some interesting stuff here. I don't know if there's any. It's interesting. This is interesting. Um, okay, yeah, the giant tidal wave, we got that. There is a considerable mention of a great deluge in the legends and ancient lore of almost all the peoples on the planet. In the Hebrew Bible, we find the biblical account of Noah, who was told by God to build an ark to carry the remnant of mankind and the animals of the earth. In the Mesopotamian cuneiform writings, there is also mention of the great deluge. In the Mesopotamian account of the deluge, the Sumerian god Enki told Atra Hasis to build a boat to save mankind during a great flood that lasted days. And in India, we find mention of the god Manu, who is supposed to have saved mankind after a similar great flood. All these stories have a common theme. That theme is a presence in ancient times of fluvial climate, which led to mankind learning more about the navigation of the seas and boat building. It would appear that because of the worldwide, and I was listening to Randall Carlson's podcast the other night, and he said something wild about um, how long humanity has been seafaring, and then one of the two other guys on the show, they mentioned how they have read articles about the possibility of Neanderthals sailing. So there's some really really wild stuff in regards to ancient navigations and navigators. Um, it would appear that because of the worldwide flooding of the lowland areas, the only safe place to live at this time may have been the highland areas of Saharan Africa. It is this theory which has led to the Tamana culture bearers being called the Proto-Saharans. Hmm. Ancient navigators. It would appear the Tamana people belonged to an ancient confederation called Ma. Members of the Ma or Fish Confederation included the Magyar Egyptians, the Almanites, Manding, Afro-Asiatic speakers, and the Dravidians. And I feel like I've heard of the Dravidians before. The name Ma was either their great ancestor Noah. Hold up, wait a minute. Uh-oh. Or the god worshipped by these ancient navigators. Yes, check out my live stream, or check out my podcast episode on the dynastic race, which we go into Noah and his sons. The name Ma was either their great ancestor Noah, Astrahasis, or the god worshipped by these ancient navigators. In honor of this great ancestor, the descendants of the Tamana people used the term Ma to denote greatness or highness. For example, the term for great is Magnar Maga, Manding Maga, and Dravidian Ma. The Tamana people also claim the Tamana people also claim descendant from the great Ma, founder of the Fish Confederation. For illustration, the Manding or the Mandakan people call themselves Mad, the children, Ma'ad, the children of Ma. The Sumerians called themselves Ma-Gra-Ri, exalted children, while the Magnar referred to themselves as Mu-Gre-Ri, Mugri, or Mag-Kara, exalted children. Here we have a sculpture of the Manding, a family of ethnic groups in West Africa. And so he has this, yeah, he looks like a brother, an African brother. But this makes me wonder, seeing as he looks like a brother from Africa, right? And we know the Olmecs in South America, and if we were to go back up to the map, they were in South America. Hold on, hold the phone. I want to look something up real quick. I'm looking up where the Olmec regions are located. So it looks like they were of Central America. And hold on. And what did they call themselves? Ma. I'm wondering if the Olmecs are connected to the Tamana people only because when you look at the map, um, it says Mexico, it said Bolivia, it said Colombia, and when you look at where the Olmecs were located, um, they were located mostly in the Mexican state of Tabasco. So I'm really wondering because it's in southern Mexico. Okay, there we go, southern Mexico. And when you look at the map, if you look at the map, it it, it is southern Mexico. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Afghanistan, Iwo Jima. I'm pretty sure it's in Mexico as well. Perhaps I could be wrong, but I'm just wondering if there is a connection between the Tamana people and the Olmecs. Because if you look at the Olmec, the heads, the statues, the heads, they look like African brothers. They look like brothers. Um, and you see, this adds on to some really very interesting speculations in regards to the Aborigine Americans. And I'll translate that for listeners. Um, Dark-skinned Americans, meaning not the interpretation of Indian Americans or Native Americans, but black skinned Americans that were already living in North America. Um, Go watch some of Dan Calloway's videos on YouTube or read his book, It Was Told to You in Reverse, about how there is no such thing as the Atlantic freed slave. But that's for another topic. Here we go. The researcher Dr. Vamos Toth Batar indicates that the Tamana had their own writings as proven by the similarity of the pottery writing found on ancient samples from Africa and Eurasia. In addition, they possessed an outstanding boat technology and knowledge of nautical astronomy. These Proto-Saharans offered prayers to Ka, the ancient spirit god, Magnar Khan, Mandakan Kani, and Dravidian Ka'an. Um, and I wonder if this is the same There are stories of a traveling civilization, and they were called the Fish People too, which is kind of ironic. and they literally traveled around the world, and they were just raiding many different cities and kingdoms. So I wonder if there's any correlation, and they just kind of like over time just like vanished. No one knows what happened to them. I wonder if there's a correlation. Global toponyms. Toth, after years of research, has found the missing link in ancient history that is um, that is a numerous global toponyms that point to a common origin around the word. Although many scholars would dispute this claim right away without reviewing the evidence, the results of Toth's research, when viewed with an open mind and including the hundreds of toponyms that he has discovered, shows a link between place names in Africa, Eurasia, and the Americas that deserve to be examined by other academics. A key element of Vamos Toth's research has been the discovery of regularity or prefix or suffix place name elements. The use of this method is not new. It was also used by Alan Moore in 1924 in his book, The Chief Elements Used in English Place Names. The toponymic, uh, the toponymic data collected by Toth complements the work of N. Lavari, who in Dravidian origins and the West made factual claims about the common origin of pre-Indo-European cultures in Europe and Asia. The discovery of the Ari element in many toponymic examples is significant because Ari agrees with the Dravidian suffix for city, village, or town. In Sumerian Uri has similar meaning. This corresponds to terms in the Manding languages where we have furu or property of clan. This complements the findings of Lavari, who the widespread use of R among the hydronymic names from Europe to India. Toth gives many Tamana place names the Ma element. This agrees with the Manding word Ma, area or surface. This corresponds with Dravidian word Man, earth, soil, and land. Another common place element recognized by Toth is Ka and Ki. The Ka element seems to represent an inhabited area. For example, in Dravidian languages, Ka means fortification. In Manding languages, Ka is a locative suffix joined to place names, while in Swahili, Ka means to live, dwell. In Sumerian, Ki is a past position determinative placed after the name of places and countries. The final Tamanan place name elements covered by Toth are Gu, Nu, Bum, and Buna. These terms, from the study of the language spoken by the Tamanan culture, were used to refer to home or docimile. For example, the bo or bu element is often found in terms for house. For example, Kannada Geblu is house and Manding bu is house. The new element can be found in many languages uh, as N vowel. For instance, Dravidian Nakar is house. Manding nu is habitation or a family or clan. The Dravidian term mal or mala was a common root in the toponyms of the Near East, Europe, India, and Mexico. In the Dravidian languages, mala means mountain or hill or large, rough rocks. In the Magnar language, a member of the Ural Aliatic group, mal means pile, stack, heap, and hill. And what we have here is a picture of the Indus Valley Civilization, 2600 to 1900 BCE. located both in Pakistan and India, is often identified as having a Dravidian, as having been Dravidian, the Pashupati seal from the Indus Valley civilization. The Dravidian, Manding, and Ural Altaic languages can explain the place names Sand and Kara. The Kara term is most interesting. This name is very popular, especially in Inner Asia. This term occurs as a name for towns situated along rivers, streams, or lakes. This suggests that Kara is a water sign. The view is supported by Manding and Dravidian languages. In Dravidian, Kar means unite and shelter, while Kar means salteous or brackish. In Manding, Kara means to assemble and be dirty. This suggests that the Kara Topani was used to name towns because it signified both a place of assembly, shelter, and a place where the water would be brackish or dirty. In the Dravidian language, Kari meant river. The term Kara is often associated with dirt or black. For example, Turkish Kara is black, Magyar Kurma, soot, dirty, and Korean Kurim, soot. The sand. Place name appears to denote dry, uncultivated land near a river at high altitude areas of the globe. Sand may agree with Manding Sade, uncultivated land in the region where rain is formed, the mountains. This interpretation is based on the readings of Sa and Nid. In Manding, Sa means serpent, rain, sky, region where rain is formed, and Nadid, uncultivated land near water. It is interesting to note that Sa in Magnar means pond, dirty lake. Since the tops of mountains are usually covered by rain clouds, it meant when people living in the valleys moved their habitation sites up into the mountainous areas near rivers, they would call these sites Sa, Ned, the sky regions land near water. This view is supported by the fact that in Chinese, Shan means mountain range, while Shandi meant hilly land. This totally agrees with our interpretation of the term Sanid. In the Chinese language, Shang would agree with sand because Shang means upper. In Magyar, the word shand, means slant of the mountains. And here we have a picture of a mountain range in Sanjilong Crater Lake in Nongguan National Forest Park, Hunan County, Jilin, China. Another Tamana place name is Asa. The term Asa is related to water. In many ancient languages, Ba and A were used to denote water. Many Manding and Dravidian words formed with an italic SC today in ancient times was formed by an initial T. In Dravidian, Magyar and Manding, Ta, indicates places, and Mandi, Nig, and Sa in ancient times was used to denote a place of habitation. Thus, Asa could be interpreted as water place or locally of water. The addition of the s after a in the term asa is nothing more than verbal termination. Thus, Sand Asa is near a body of water. It can be interpreted as mountainous region of land near water, or much water this uh, locality. locality. Another Tamana place name was Asa Kur. The term Asa Kur means brackish water. This locality or much water is locality of brackish type. Connections around the world. The evidence is clear. Many place names in Eurasia, Africa, and the Americas are substrates that are derived from the languages spoken by the Tamana people, which include Sumerian, Magmar, Madakan, and Dravidian group. The toponyms discovered by Dr. Vamos Toth also highlight the wide dispersal of Tamana people in ancient times and the origination of substantial Gnostic vocabulary that linked widely dispersed languages from Africa to Eurasia and the Americas. The research of Dr. Vostoth is witness to the high level universal culture of his Tamana culture bearers. Dr. Vamos died in March 1st, 2006, in Seattle, Washington, USA. That's unfortunate. But this is really interesting because I really love how when you really break it down through the syntax of language, you really get the origins and the locality of, these civilizations. And I personally think I might actually look more into his research because I'm very curious about this civilization of Tamana and if it's connected to the Olmec civilization. Uh, and also, it's very fascinating that this is also, we're noticing that this civilization is throughout the entire world, all the way into Asia. And like I was saying, if you were to look at the map, and look at some of the interesting architecture in Japan, it's very fascinating that there are these, massive structures under the water in Japan, or, the pyramids in China, or like I was talking about earlier, the pyramid in Indonesia. These are all fascinating things. And when you really break it down through language, you really see the origins of civilization and where they may have originated and started from. And it's really interesting how, in regards to the Tamana civilization, I see we got someone in the live stream. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. Please make sure to hit that like button. As I was saying, you look at this civilization of Tamana and the fact that it originated from West Africa, it kind of makes you wonder. And when you look at the statues of the Olmecs, which I highly recommend people look them up. They literally look like, African dudes. And when I was talking about the Aborigine Americans in North America, it's very telling and very curious to see whether or not these civilizations connected. And it's not trying to, like, and this has nothing to do with race, but it's very fascinating to when you look at um history and you look at the genealogy of people. I mean, I don't know how many people even know about the fact that, you know there was at a time in China dark skinned Asian people. It's been documented. They're not there anymore because after time, I mean, the pigmentation is gonna fade after a while. China's not, it's not the Sahara. It's not the Caribbean. It's not, its climate is, it's pretty cloudy. It's and depending on where you are, I mean, you can compare it to, Siberian people and people from Alaska. And we're not even going to get into that conversation, and the connection to people of Siberia and possibly Native Americans, but that's a whole nother topic. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you look at language and you look at the architectural structure, you look at the various pyramids throughout the world. They all they're all pyramids. Sure, they might look different, but they're all pyramids. And when you look into the work of Graham Hancock, when you look into the work of Randall Carlson, when you look into the old stories of, Solon or Herodotus, you look into these stories of these explorers, of these researchers, these philosophers, and their interactions with Egyptian priests, and them discussing, the previous, cataclysms of Earth, and the the previous times that we were able to travel to North America. This is all stuff that's verified. So you just kind of have to really ask yourself, and especially how now we're in reading in the Tamana that they were also groups of the Egyptians, and we know that the Egyptians were good sailors, and there are Egyptian hieroglyphs in Australia. And if you catch my live stream about the Celtic warriors in Egypt, you know how did the Egyptians hire Celtic warriors? Well, the only way you do that is you go to Celtic lands. So there's also that connection. So you have to kind of really have to ask yourself, the narrative that's being told in the mainstream academics and antiquities and what have you, and then you look at the actual narrative and you compare and contrast, and it's very telling. And I think everyone should just kind of take that extra second if you have time and just think about that. Like, what is with these uh comparing and contrasting of narratives. And I'll give you one example. So I was recently listening to a researcher and talking about the fact that the slave trade and the transatlantic slave trade was really false, and a big lie. So he presented a picture of a Dutch ship that was raided and captured. And this painting was depicted in 1754, and it depicted mostly um, dark skinned women and children. And you had white men there. All of them the women were clothed. They actually looked well fed and clothed nicely. And the white men that were there, they looked like regular guys, and they were discussing uh, the women, what they could do, what they could be used for in terms of labor. Then and this was a incident that took place in the 1600s. It was a retelling of an incident in the 1600s, and this painting was drawn in 1754. About I don't know, like 100 200 years later, the exact same event was drawn in 1917. The exact same event, but in this painting, the it is all men, the slaves. They look malnourished. They looked disheveled. They're all chained up. They're on the ground. And all the white men, they have weapons, they have muskets, they have swords, they're wearing armor. And this was depicted in 1917. But if you go to the original depiction of the event from the previous artist from 1754, none of the white men have armor. All the slaves are women. They're all clothed. There is no sense of fear or danger or threat. And this is what I mean about the narrative. So, you have to ask yourself, well, why would one depiction of it depicted as, you know, they essentially look like, slave labor, but more like, indentured serfs. And then the other one, they make it look like, these slaves that were beaten and captured. Now, I'll be going into that topic and some of the interesting dynamics about that in a later episode. I got to do some research on that. But the reason why I'm presenting this is to just bring to mind and to bring to attention the differences that are told in the various types of narratives, and how many narratives are told particularly to either dumb us down, re-educate us, or obfuscate the truth. And you see that everywhere. It's more prevalent now than ever. And so that's kind of what I wanted to kind of bring to light about just these kind of topics and the things that I like to talk about. I talk about topics and I look up things that kind of go against the narrative, and nothing too controversial. I mean, this is pretty tame to other things I plan on discussing in the future. But I think for everyone out there and for listeners, just, be mindful of the narrative that's being told to you and really do your own research. Use your critical thinking skills, trust your instincts, and, educate yourself on how to better utilize your critical thinking skills, and your mindfulness techniques and strategy, because they're doing everything in their power to continue to lie and erase and continue to manipulate the narrative. And it's not fair to us as Americans to have to put up with that. And I feel that for, well, not even Americans, but for humanity in general, I should say, I should correct myself. And I really hope that, people, whoever out there who, listen to this, take that extra time and really think about the narrative of your own life. And, what are you being manipulated in regards to your own humanity and individuality and history, culture, heritage, you name it. I mean, it's all being manipulated. And I know some of my words might, seem a little taboo or might, strike a nerve, but tough titties. That's life. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Lounge Ronin. All things, everything. And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to hit that like button, click the notification bell, and make sure to subscribe. And if you're new to the channel and you made it this far, you know what to do. Leave a comment with your thoughts below. Sprinkle in some constructive criticism. Make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. And until next time, stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.